When does hard work become overexertion? Where do we draw the line between conscious self-reflection and overthinking? How far can we go with positive self-assurance without teetering on pretentious overconfidence? You see, humans by nature are excessive. We think too much, feel too deeply, work too hard, yet, paradoxically, we expend copious amounts of energy trying to minimize the excesses to which we're naturally drawn. We incessantly labor to be moderate and controlled, when deep down, we long to think, feel, and express ourselves without limitations. It's important to accept that while we cannot change our inherently excessive nature, we are more than capable of setting adequate standards that allow us to control how much we submit to the concept of more. But what is more? Is it the hours you spend slaving away to meet that deliverable deadline? Or the hours you spend nitpicking every single interaction you have with every single person you come across, all in the name of honest self-reflection? No. More is a coin. Two-sided, polar, and evenly weighted. These days, social critics are more than happy to point out the tail of this coin. How horrible overworking is for your health, or how overthinking can lead to something called analysis paralysis. However, few of us take the time to consider the head of this coin. We've been conditioned to regard excesses as this big bad that we must do everything in our power to defeat. But it's the head of this coin that pushes you to do those extra hours of revision, even when you've been sitting at your desk all day. It's what pushes you to put in that one extra rep, even when you're tired. It is this head that we must strive to refine and prioritize, because it's what pushes us towards that ever-elusive goal, achieving our full potential. I found that reflection is the first step towards achieving this goal. We can achieve unimaginable amounts of growth if we simply take the time to pause and think. I recently spent a day without my phone. I walked to class without it. I ate lunch without it. It's crazy. I remember it's the first time in a long time I recall having the time and space to actually hear my own thoughts. I told my friend about this and she laughed. This concerned me a bit. Are we really so caught up in the bytes of data we routinely consume that we find it ridiculous, laughable even, to set our devices aside and actually live, actually think? I had similar thoughts after making my first official journal entry a few weeks ago. I found it worryingly tasking to convey my emotions in words and piece together coherent thoughts that effectively pass my feelings across. The amount of time I've spent scrolling through the same apps over and over, listening to the same songs over and over, watching the same shows over and over, made the simple task of writing something I had to prepare my mind for. Nevertheless, I did it, and in doing it, I was able to identify the excesses I myself was struggling with and address them head on. This time of reflection, coupled with my epiphany from the phoneless day, revealed to me the one excess I had been indulging in, and I'm sure we can all relate here. It was screen time. Okay, now, I've identified the excess, it's time to act, take that big step, turn my life around. But it's not that easy to simply stop doing something. You can't just stop overthinking or stop overworking. Change is instant. To change something, you have to actually change something. And since we can't just swap out the excesses we loathe for the routines we crave, we have to consciously replace the habits that form these excesses little by little. And luckily for us, all it takes is a bit of intentionality and courage to start. But as with most things in life, this is much easier said than done. I've been trying to wake up half an hour earlier for the past month, and I've been successful on about 7 days. It's like when my alarm goes off, this tiny voice in my head just enchants me into snoozing. But we both know there's no enchantment taking place. It's simply the absence of intentionality. Intentionality can be the difference between living a life under the influence of your excesses and living a life that you control. Indeed, it can be the difference between waking up at 7 a.m. and at 6:30. Once you've successfully paused, reflected, and identified the excesses you struggle with, and then made an actionable plan to replace the habits that form these excesses, you will be incredibly well-positioned to live that balanced, regulated life we all crave. You will no longer feel the pang of buyer's remorse after overspending, or the shame and awkwardness after oversharing with someone you don't even know that well, because you will no longer be a passive victim of your excesses, but a master of deciding how much more you want to allow yourself to indulge in. To conclude, I invite us all to take a step back. Well, actually, a step up. Let's observe ourselves from a higher, more objective lens. Well, I know true objectivity doesn't really exist, but for the sake of metaphor, let's reflect, replace, and finally reclaim our lives from the excesses we are so easily engulfed by. For you, it might not mean putting your phone down or waking up 30 minutes earlier than normal, but it might mean taking that all-important first step towards a routine you can truly love and a life you're more proud of. Thank you.